superstar is about to sign a Nike endorsement deal worth $28 million.
The announcement that shattered the sports marketing world came through a single social media post that changed everything. When Caitlin Clark stepped into that press conference room, she wasn't just revealing a new endorsement deal, she was rewriting the entire economics of women's sports marketing forever. The number that flashed across screens left executives speechless, fans in disbelief, and competitors scrambling to understand how the landscape had shifted so dramatically overnight. But this wasn't just about money. This was about a battle between corporate giants that had been brewing since Clark first stepped onto a basketball court. What led to this unprecedented moment that has Nike executives reportedly furious and scrambling to counter the biggest endorsement earthquake in women's sports history? Caitlin Clark's current endorsement landscape. Caitlin Clark signed her first major professional endorsement deal with Nike in April 2024, shortly before the WNBA draft, in a partnership that was reported to be worth approximately $28 million over 8 years. This deal made her one of the highest-paid endorsement athletes in women's basketball history. At the time, the Nike partnership included signature shoe development, with Clark becoming one of the few WNBA players to have their own signature basketball shoe line. The deal also encompassed apparel, training gear, and various marketing initiatives designed to capitalize on Clark's unprecedented popularity and marketability. Since joining the WNBA, Clark's commercial appeal has grown exponentially, with her jersey becoming the league's bestseller and her games consistently drawing television audiences that exceed 1 million viewers. This commercial success has established her as the most marketable player in women's basketball. Her endorsement portfolio extends beyond Nike to include partnerships with Gatorade, HY, and other major brands that recognize her unique ability to reach mainstream audiences and generate consumer engagement that exceeds typical women's sports marketing results. Questions arise about how contract terms and market valuations might evolve as Clark's commercial impact continues to grow and potentially exceeds initial projections made when her original endorsement deals were negotiated. The economics of women's sports endorsements. The women's sports endorsement market has historically operated with significantly lower valuations compared to men's sports, with even the most successful female athletes receiving deals that represent fractions of what their male counterparts command. In similar sports, recent years have seen growing recognition of women's sports marketing potential, with increased television viewership, social media engagement, and consumer spending on women's sports content and merchandise. This growth has attracted new investment and higher valuations for endorsement deals. Caitlin Clark's impact on WNBA ratings, attendance, and merchandise sales has demonstrated the commercial potential of women's basketball in ways that have surprised even industry experts who are accustomed to more limited commercial returns from women's professional sports. The traditional model for women's sports endorsements has been challenged by Clark's unprecedented mainstream appeal and her ability to generate revenue and engagement that approaches or exceeds what has been typical for men's basketball players in similar market positions. Sports marketing analysts note that Clark's commercial success might represent a turning point for women's sports endorsements, potentially leading to dramatically higher valuations for future deals involving elite female athletes across various sports. Nike's position in basketball marketing. Nike has dominated basketball endorsements for decades, building relationships with legendary players like Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and Kevin Durant, while establishing basketball shoes and apparel as core components of their global business strategy. The company's investment in women's basketball has increased significantly in recent years, with endorsement deals for players like Sabrina Ionescu, Breanna Stewart, and other WNBA stars representing growing recognition of the market potential for women's basketball products. Nike's partnership with Caitlin Clark was seen as a strategic investment in the future of women's basketball marketing, with the company betting on Clark's ability to drive consumer interest and product sales in ways that could justify significant financial commitments. The development of signature shoes and apparel lines requires substantial upfront investment in design, manufacturing, and marketing, making endorsement deals strategic business decisions that extend far beyond simple athlete compensation arrangements. Questions arise about how Nike might respond to competitive challenges in the women's basketball market and whether their current investment levels adequately reflect the growing commercial potential of female athletes and women's sports content. Adidas's strategic positioning. Adidas has historically competed with Nike for basketball endorsements, though they have often focused on different market segments and athlete partnerships. Their approach to women's sports marketing has emphasized authenticity and cultural connection rather than purely performance-based messaging. The company has made strategic investments in women's sports, including partnerships with tennis players, soccer players, and basketball athletes who align with their brand values and marketing objectives. These relationships often emphasize lifestyle and cultural elements alongside athletic performance. Adidas's basketball division has sought to differentiate itself from Nike through innovative technology, unique design approaches, and partnerships with athletes who represent different aspects of basketball culture and community engagement. Recent years have seen Adidas increase their focus on women's sports marketing. Recognizing the growth potential and the opportunity to establish stronger positions in markets where Nike has traditionally dominated endorsement relationships, sports marketing experts wonder whether Adidas might view women's basketball as a strategic opportunity to gain competitive advantages in basketball marketing by investing more aggressively than their competitors in emerging talent and growing market segments. The competitive dynamics of sports marketing. Major sports apparel companies compete intensively for endorsement relationships with elite athletes, often bidding against each other in ways that can drive contract values significantly higher than initial market assessments might suggest. The bidding process for high-profile athlete endorsements can become highly competitive when multiple companies recognize the commercial potential of specific athletes and are willing to make substantial financial commitments to secure exclusive partnerships. Strategic considerations in endorsement deals include not only the immediate commercial returns but also the competitive advantages of preventing rival companies from accessing particularly valuable marketing partnerships and athlete relationships. The women's sports market represents a growing area of competition between major brands as companies recognize the increasing commercial potential and seek to establish strong positions before market valuations reach their full potential. Legal experts note that endorsement negotiations can involve complex terms regarding exclusivity, performance incentives, and market protection that affect both the financial value and strategic implications of athlete partnerships. Social media and marketing evolution. Modern sports marketing has been transformed by social media platforms that allow athletes to communicate directly with fans and create personal brands that can be leveraged for commercial partnerships and endorsement opportunities. Caitlin Clark's social media presence includes millions of followers across multiple platforms, creating direct marketing channels that provide substantial value to endorsement partners seeking to reach engaged audiences interested in basketball and sports content. The ability to measure engagement, reach, and conversion rates through social media has provided more precise methods for evaluating the commercial impact of athlete endorsements and justifying higher financial commitments based on documented results. Traditional media metrics have been supplemented by digital analytics that can track consumer behavior, purchase patterns, and brand awareness in ways that provide clearer evidence of endorsement deal effectiveness and return on investment. Questions arise about how social media influence and digital marketing capabilities might affect endorsement valuations and whether traditional approaches to athlete marketing adequately account for modern consumer engagement patterns. International market considerations. The global sports apparel market includes significant opportunities in international markets where women's basketball and female athletes have different levels of recognition and commercial appeal than in domestic U.S. markets. Caitlin Clark's appeal extends beyond American audiences to include international fans who have discovered women's basketball through her college and professional career, creating marketing opportunities in markets that have been historically difficult to penetrate for women's sports. European and Asian markets represent significant growth opportunities for women's sports marketing, with increasing consumer interest in basketball content and athlete endorsements that reflect growing global awareness of women's professional sports. The strategic value of athlete endorsements often includes their ability to help brands establish or strengthen positions in international markets where local consumer preferences and cultural factors affect marketing effectiveness and brand recognition. Sports marketing analysts note that international market potential can significantly affect endorsement valuations, particularly for athletes who have demonstrated cross-cultural appeal and the ability to generate interest across diverse demographic and geographic segments. Industry precedents and comparisons. The highest paid endorsement deals in women's sports have historically been concentrated in tennis, with players like Serena Williams and Maria Sharapova commanding deals that exceeded what was typical for athletes in other women's sports. Basketball endorsement deals have traditionally been dominated by male athletes, with even the most successful women's basketball players receiving significantly smaller contracts than their male counterparts despite comparable or superior athletic achievements. Recent growth in women's sports viewership and commercial success has begun to challenge traditional valuation models, with some female athletes receiving deals that approach or exceed what was previously considered Typical for men's sports endorsements, the precedent of dramatically increased valuations could influence negotiations for other elite female athletes across various sports, potentially creating a new baseline for women's sports endorsement markets. Legal experts wonder whether current market changes represent temporary adjustments or fundamental shifts in how women's sports marketing is valued, and whether these changes will be sustained across different sports and athlete categories. The business impact on women's basketball. Major endorsement deals create positive momentum for entire sports by demonstrating commercial viability and attracting additional investment from sponsors, media partners, and other commercial stakeholders interested in women's basketball content. The success of high-profile endorsement partnerships often leads to increased media coverage, fan engagement, and consumer interest that benefits all participants in women's basketball rather than just the individual athletes receiving the endorsement deals. Increased commercial investment in women's basketball can support league growth, improved player compensation, better facilities and travel conditions, and expanded media coverage that enhances the overall quality and visibility of the sport. The demonstration of significant commercial potential through major endorsement deals often attracts new sponsors and partners who had previously overlooked women's basketball but now recognize the marketing opportunities and consumer engagement potential. Questions arise about how individual endorsement success might translate into broader benefits for women's basketball, and whether increased commercial investment will be distributed in ways that support sustainable growth across all levels of the sport. Athlete empowerment and career control. Modern professional athletes have increasingly taken control of their career decisions and endorsement relationships, often working with specialized agents and advisors who help them maximize both financial returns and strategic positioning. The growth of athlete personal brands and direct fan engagement through social media has provided athletes with more leverage in endorsement negotiations and greater ability to demonstrate their commercial value to potential partners. Caitlin Clark's approach to endorsement decisions reflects broader trends toward athlete empowerment and strategic career management that prioritizes long-term value creation over immediate financial returns. The ability to generate substantial endorsement income provides elite athletes with financial security and independence that can influence their career decisions and provide opportunities to pursue interests and initiatives beyond their primary sport. Sports business experts note that increased athlete empowerment and endorsement success can create positive cycles that attract more investment and opportunities to women's sports, while providing individual athletes with resources to support broader initiatives. Media coverage and public reaction. Major endorsement announcements generate significant media coverage that extends beyond sports outlets to include business, entertainment, and general interest media that recognize the broader cultural and economic implications of such deals. Public reaction to large endorsement deals often reflects broader attitudes about athlete compensation, gender equity in sports, and the commercial value of women's sports content and entertainment. Social media amplification of endorsement news can create viral content that reaches audiences far beyond traditional sports fans, potentially introducing new audiences to women's basketball and individual athletes like Clark. The coverage of endorsement deals often includes analysis of industry trends, competitive implications, and the broader significance for women's sports that helps educate audiences about the business aspects of professional athletics. Questions arise about how media coverage and public reaction might influence future endorsement negotiations, and whether positive reception of major deals creates momentum for continued growth in women's sports marketing. Looking toward the future, the evolution of women's sports endorsements represents broader changes in sports marketing, consumer preferences, and recognition of previously undervalued commercial opportunities that could continue driving growth across multiple sports and athlete categories. The success of breakthrough endorsement deals often establishes new baseline expectations for future negotiations, while attracting increased investment and attention from companies that had previously allocated limited resources to women's sports marketing. Questions remain about how sustainable current growth trends might be, and whether the commercial success of individual athletes like Clark represents lasting changes in market dynamics or temporary adjustments that might not be replicated across other sports and athletes. The implications for women's basketball include potential for continued growth in league investment, player compensation, media coverage, and fan engagement that could build on the momentum created by successful endorsement partnerships and commercial success. Sports industry analysts wonder whether current developments represent the beginning of fundamental changes in how women's sports are valued commercially, and whether these changes will create sustainable growth opportunities that benefit all participants in women's professional athletics. If you're as amazed by these business developments as we are, go ahead and like this video. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think women's sports endorsements are finally reaching their true market value? How do you see the competition between major brands affecting athlete opportunities? We want to hear your perspective on the business side of women's professional sports and what these changes mean for the future. Then hit subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss our coverage of the evolving economics of sports marketing.